Hey, there we are. Welcome, everybody. Uh-oh.
Hey, there we are.
Oh, there's the other Gabriel. All right. All right. There we go. Well, before I get too deep in any of the topics tonight, I guess what I can do is start off by maybe reviewing some material and just talking about, because I want to bridge this conversation involving, like, water is programmable matter and how our intentions when we think of something. I want to talk about this like it always has been, because everybody kind of just says, we program water, and so I want to talk about it more in a more drilled down scientific way without being too whatever, right? But so let's talk about it more like, like a Wilhelm Reich or a James DeMayo, like orgone researcher, and talk about what is this universal plasma field. I guess you could argue, guys, like if you follow those researchers or you know anything about them, the universal plasma field, as expressed in some of the military documentation, like the Gateway Experience and reports like Controlled Offensive Behavior, which I can share with you in some of my old presentations here. I have lots and lots of that material inside my energetics presentations, but they're very dense with information, and they tend to be on the longer side. So when I'm doing these presentations here, since these tend to run 2 to 3 hours frequently, I try not to put in, like, 30, 40 minutes worth of material that I've already, it's already out there. So sometimes I'll do it as a review. Like, for example, there's been times where I did like 3 parts of the energetic series, then I would like add material to it and answer questions or something like that, for example, to give it a better explanation, because some of that material I did 4 years ago or 3 years ago or so, some of the energetics material. And I would say that it's my understanding of the topics has improved since then. Not enough to go back and change the material because it's still good, but I like to add things to it, and just to help clarify certain points, or if there's something that I say I don't know in that material, then to tell people, like, well, when I did not know what that was, but now I do, so let me explain it to you, that kind of thing, like an annex or an addendum or whatever you want to say whenever they update books. What has that word? What do you call it? This happens, like authors sometimes update books. It's sort of like that. I'll do a presentation where I'll like do a whole review of my energetic series, and that's worth doing frequently because it's the core of what I'm doing now, and it's the reason why everything that's weird in the world right now is what it is. It's both an abuse of the science of energetics, as well as a lack of understanding of the science of energetics. So what you have is a large section of the population that has no clue what energetics is. So they don't understand psychoenergetics. They don't understand, at least not at a level that they need to. And things like lying in the media cycle at a purely, you need to understand it at a more science-based level, why deception is necessary to people that control the media cycle. And if you don't understand why it's necessary to them based on their values, again, people had to get, in this country and in the world, we had to get past a few barriers of belief. Number one, are they really doing it? Well, most people now go, okay, fine. Yeah, these people are obviously lying to us. I think it's like, what, 7 or 8% of the people say they trust the media. That's pretty sad. I mean, maybe it's more than that. I don't know. But when you have less than 1 out of 10 people that actually trust the news cycle, then you don't have the news. What you have is a bunch of echo chambers of fake, of reporting something that simply did not happen, or a manipulation of something that happened. And so I wanted to talk about our America's relationship with Russia as a great example of this, because America right now is dealing with some pretty sophisticated layers of misinformation that's tricking Republicans, Democrats, and I would even say people that are in the middle, especially when it comes to the Russia dynamic. So Forgive me, folks. I'm just having my first coffee of the day, and it's not even. It's 8 o'clock or so. It's one that's pretty close to 8 o'clock, and I'm a big coffee person, but I like having my coffee first thing in the morning. So I'm still getting there. So cheers. I've only had a little bit of it. All right. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about the news relative to energetics and like Professor Emoto's research, I wanted to bridge these discussions together. Number one, to show you how a guy like Professor Emoto, what he does, the brilliance of what Emoto does, and showing you his water intention experiments, which I'm going to show you here. Maybe I should just do that, just show you some examples of it, so I'm not just like, speaking to something without having an example on the screen. So all right, I have this one presentation here that I'm going to share with you. This is something I did several months ago before I was working, and and my channel kind of went on a, not really a hiatus, but I stopped doing live presentations very frequent. I was almost doing them not at all. And this is one I did on water frequency and love, Emoto's research, biblical prophecy, and programmable matter. And the reason why I was trying to show people that then was because I believe like any shared belief system can manifest something into physical reality. And, we take that process for granted when it comes to spirituality and belief systems. So, again, belief in an individual, belief in a religion, belief in a symbol, whatever it is, it manifests things into physical reality. And so if you don't know the science of it, and that there is an actual um there's something measurable relative to this influence layer that extends from people, and that guys like Professor Masaru Emoto, and others, actually he's kind of a pioneer, and he's one of the only people that was doing it like that. But what I mean to say though is he was actually showing people that when you focus and concentrate on a specific word, that actually changes the structures of the water cells within the water glass. So it would go from something malformed if it was city water, for example. And then he would have like a bunch of kids just stand in a circle around the glass of water and say, okay, I want you to think of the word gratitude and focus on gratitude and think of gratitude. And then it began to change the cell structure of the water. The water actually, it's something that to the visible eye, it's not like you could stare at a glass of water and go, wow, it's cleaner now, or wow, it's better. No, but you can actually see the structure of the cells of the water change inside. So that was a pretty powerful experiment to actually demonstrate that there is an energy signature that is attached to human brainwave. And when you get a group of people in a collective to concentrate and focus on the same frequency, that without even discussing the word programs the water. So what I would say that process involves, let's break it down to something more scientific. What he's actually doing is he's encouraging a process through which the children in that experiment are given the frequency of gratitude. The word gratitude has emotions associated with it that are shared broadly across the global population, and they're mostly pleasant, they're mostly good things. Gratitude means thankfulness, it means being, generosity, it means all those things. It means I'm happy, I'm grateful, I'm thankful, all those things. I'm pleased, whatever, right? So we all know what that means. Okay. And so all of the frequencies associated with it, the emotions that are associated with it, are also brainwave frequencies that have signatures to it. So what happens is words become carriers of other energy signatures that it contain, what are called bions. And so when a person thinks of the word, they have an association of feelings that get attached to the word as a frequency, and that programs this layer inside their body that are called bions. And so when you release bions, which they can measure in a petri dish, by the way, this is the part that's a little bit more occulted and less definitively provable, because you can measure bions, you can see bions. So that part's a fact. Here's where I think you have to start making arguments for what's really going on beyond that. What I suggest is, and I think is happening, is what Professor Emoto's research bridges into DeMayo's research. DeMayo showed you that when you focus and concentrate on your body's, or even just the life cycle of growing a plant in a petri dish, generates these things called bions that have this glowing, luminescent energy to it. And I would argue that when you think and focus and concentrate on something, you are actually adding the frequency of the word that has emotions associated with it that are programmed into the collective hive mind. It's like a storage container within this ionosphere that we all share. And so that frequency is literally pulling down the emotions that are associated with it. So again, the game that's always played with language in our culture, have you noticed, like, trying to change the meaning of words? They used to mean one thing, now they mean another, and oftentimes something radically different. Something that, like a word that meant something back in the 50s, now no longer means that at all. Something that you could use safely as a word before and it would mean something pleasant or good, now has a completely different meaning to it. And again, how does that even happen, and what's the motivation for making that happen? Why do people do that with language? Okay, so, well, I'm glad you're here, Kelly. That's because this is a good things involving, like, word neurolinguistic programming, wordplay. I would argue that the whole purpose behind that, when you get past like subliminal messaging and conscious whatever, it's tricking the brain into um placing negative information into bions that go into water, and that changes physical reality. And this is the game that's being played with the media cycle and the news cycle. This is why I always keep on my channel. You'll notice that I suggest these channels called Secret Key Activator. um, there's a whole bunch of documentaries in there where they go in, like, the Unmasking is a good series, and Holographic Disclosure and Holographic Universe. There are a whole bunch of them that discuss these concepts in great detail, and offer a lot more visuals than I do. So that those, I think, are very worthwhile going through. But because they talk about this exact thing involving what you focus and concentrate on, manifesting into physical reality. They just don't talk about it at the level that I'm at right now, with the whole thing involving bions and everything. So I'm trying to get past the Gaia, like, New Age, Mother Earth. Ooh, I don't want it to be foo-foo anymore. I want us to, when we're actually discussing this, to actually go, okay, the media has placed the message out there in the news cycle. Let's make a flow chart. Let's try to visualize what's going on, like write it down a little bit. Okay, they're this broadcast tower that has the ability to influence millions of nodes simultaneously via this false media cycle. They have been gifted influence that they really don't deserve, that they have not earned. See, within human nature, there is kind of a hierarchical structure of influence within DNA structures. It's bizarre, because people, when they think and focus and concentrate on things, that has a cascading effect to other people in the population at a non-spoke level, like you don't even have to say it. So people start to believe something, and they start to actually manifest something in a physical reality. So, like, one person believing it, it's that 100th monkey thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, guys are familiar. This is something they do talk about in Secret Key Activator. That there was this whole idea that there was these two islands, right, that were separated by, like, I don't know, 100 miles or something like that. And there's these two, they both have populations of monkeys that, or something like that, that have never, these islands have never had monkeys go from one to the other. They don't talk to each other. They don't communicate. They're too far away. They're too locked away by the water for them to even have any whatever. So what they learned, though, is that the monkeys on one island, like, they on both islands, they all used to, like, crack the coconuts the same way. and it was inefficient, where they would actually go up to the top of the tree or something like that. And I can't remember what they did, but like before it would like they would just drop it and it would like lose a whole bunch of the coconut milk. And like they would lose like 2/3 of it in the process. So they wouldn't be able to actually drink the milk. And so there was this one monkey, I guess, on the island that started doing it differently, where they would bring the coconuts down and then just do this thing where they bumped it and then, did this thing so they could actually split it open and save all the coconut milk. And then pretty soon another monkey watches them do it, then another monkey watches them do it. So then you start to understand, like within the monkey population, that they're obviously pretty evolved. They just look at the other person doing it a better way and they go like, man, that's way better, I should be doing it that way too. Or like, look at all the milk that he's getting out of that coconut, I want to be stupid, I'm going to do it like that one does. Okay, that's not remarkable in and of itself, that's just survival, right? What's remarkable is the brainwave aspect of what happened to the other island, where these monkeys don't interact. Suddenly, once you reached a certain consensus on island 1, that's like 100 miles away from island 2, once like about a certain percentage of the monkeys are learning this new technique and begin to adopt this technique, even if not all of them are, suddenly the technique, without ever being physically introduced to the other monkeys, now suddenly a monkey on the other island goes like, you know something, it just seems to me like this is the way to do it. I should probably just be taking this thing down and splitting it open like this and cracking it open like that. Yeah. So that one monkey does it, and then a whole bunch of other monkeys do it, and blah, 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 blah. So what the lesson in this is, that this is teaching that at an etheric level, at a non-spoken level, at a non-physical level, information is communicated. Information and lessons and teachings are in fact passed. So there's a game out there to keep people ignorant. Wouldn't you agree? There's people out there that actually deliberately want us to be dumb. They deliberately want us to be ignorant. It's no longer should be considered conspiracy theory once you understand this science and who it benefits once they have an advantage over other people. Yes, the people that know this, they want others to be ignorant of it, and they want them to be as dumb as possible when they're malevolent. I'm not malevolent. Personally, I want everybody to know about it, because I think at this point, look, I think with mass media, it can't be a secret. I think that there was a time, maybe like before you had print media and television and radio, there would have been a reason why somebody might have wanted to keep this sort of influential DNA water program layer more of something that was kept like occulted and amongst secret societies. But the best thing I can tell folks is like, well, it's out. I mean, now it's like been proven under microscopes and oscilloscopes, and you have professors from all over the world that are going like, yep, guys, sorry, but not all this new age hokum is new age hokum. Some of these people are in fact talking shit and they don't know what they're saying, and that's true. But amongst all that nonsense, there is in fact an aura. There is in fact a biofield. We do in fact have psychic communication. We do in fact have telepathy. People do have things like psychometry, where they can pick up an object and sense where it's been. There is such a thing as water dowsers, where people can actually like sense where there's like, caverns and caves or places where there's water underground. These are abilities that have been verified and tested and are known to occur. All right. So what all that translates to is right there, a water dowser should tell you everything. So between what Wilhelm Reich talks about, what water dowsers do, and the fact that we have folks in the military that understand that there is defense reasons for recruiting these folks and having them on their side. They did it in Vietnam because water dowsers helped them find tunnels. And it was, I don't know if you guys know this, but yeah, there was like a heavy use of underground tunnels, building tunnels and everything like that, where the Viet Cong would hide. It'd have like, shrubbery where they could just pop up and then make the attack. So, so I was trying to think about what I wanted to show you guys, but let's talk about this presentation. This is one that I did several months ago. I don't know when it was, back in, 7 months ago. But like this chart right here, for example, if I play these things, I got copyright struck for this exact clip, but it's something that I still have in my, what do you call it? I still have it in my I gotta get that clip up. I mean, I can still access it, but they dinged me for it. But that's that test involving cymatics. Okay, so if you think about that, everything vibrates into these harmonic patterns, like when you send a certain frequency into this drum and the sand forms that. What I would argue is that, take it a step further, every time a lie is placed into the media cycle, they can make it vibrate into physical reality. It's, like the old Michael Jackson song, because lie becomes the truth. Hey, lie becomes the truth. That's why the fake news cycle, it's to make a lie become the truth. It's using the process of cymatics, folks, and it's a weapon. Make no mistake, the sooner people wake up to the idea that the media cycle has been quite literally weaponized against us globally, we can solve this problem a lot faster. I don't know why we tolerate groups like Twitter doing what they did to us so long as a social media organization. Hang on. Wow, it's weird. It's like I just got punched in the throat. All right. Why do we let channels like CNN that have been proven to be using like green screens and faking their live reports, sometimes going like, Ashley, what's going on out there in Missouri? And then they're in the same parking lot in Atlanta. And you can actually see the same cars passing behind them. And one's in a chair here and one's in a chair here. And the other one's just pretending that they're in this other state or this other country. I mean, we exist in a country where a media organization that's trusted, well, allegedly, but look, they're consumed. Let's put it this way, not trusted. They're consumed by everybody. They did that not once, not twice, but like a few times. Got caught just straight up lying to the camera as a major media organization. And this is the voodoo we live in, ladies and gentlemen. Lies have in fact become the truth because they vibrated themselves into reality and they refuse to vibrate themselves out. See, they shouldn't be here any longer. They shouldn't even exist. Look, guys, think about it. They fail at their basic goal, what they're allegedly there to do. They don't really do earnestly. They've been caught just straight up not doing it. Lying straight to the camera and faking something. And they're not the only ones, guys. I'm just I'm just using them as an example because I could probably go on YouTube right now and literally pull up a clip that says, here's all the time CNN got caught faking something in a studio or a parking lot. So what I'm asking you guys is, all right, hey, if you work at Taco Bell, can you pretend you made tacos for somebody and hand them an empty bag over and over again and keep your job? If Taco Bell as a restaurant routinely handed customers empty bags and said, no, your food's in there, like they'd go out of business, right? But that's what CNN's doing. That's what MSNBC is doing. That's what basically they're all doing, guys. I'm not trying to pick on any one. They're all fucking doing it. Forgive my French. And it's this. It is weaponized cymatics. And just remember, guys, none of them would have a single satellite to lie through us through unless Werner von Braun, a Nazi SS scientist, came from Germany through Operation Paperclip and said, I'll take care of your news satellites for you. Let me handle NASA. Me and these other two Nazis, we'll take over. Don't worry. Trust us. America, that's what happened. It did. I'm not exaggerating. Go look up the space program's origin. You trusted three major Nazi SS scientists that have been glorified by everybody ever since then. Walt Disney going through NASA, hugging Werner von Braun and posing with them. The head of Disney posing with a major Nazi SS scientist who is now in control of all the different factors. To this day, these Nazi bloodlines, guys, it's not like they were just there at NASA. That influence rains down. It's into the media cycle. So they become over generation after generation, the media presidencies, and those presidents hire vice presidents and directors and producers and directors and writers and everything else, all the creative people. And it's their own folks. And if you're not their own, they make damn sure they've got something on you to make it to where you're effectively theirs. You can't get out of their little mafia systems. They'll always have you in one of these ecosystems that got you into a gray area of something. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to survive. That's true for most people. That's why I find most people's crimes forgivable personally. I don't really get too like deep into like whatever. Like if it's not hurting anybody, I'm not like the guy that's running around going like, you broke the law. You guys, who the fuck is surviving right now? I'm sure there's a lot of people that are like that cutting corners and cheating and things like that. So again, I don't care. Those things don't really bother me. It's only the things that involve the violation of somebody's free will. End of story. I don't care about everything else like that. That's my name's Paul. That's between y'all. To quote Pulp Fiction. All right. So there's a cymatics drum. But let me get more into Professor Masaru Emoto. So like this, for example, is a deformed water cell. So like this would be something like him programming it with like death metal music, or it's like city water that has had like the message of hate, or just somebody focusing on hate or anger and staring at the glass of water. It looks like that, right?
Basically have influence on.
Hang on. But watch the difference, and it says here in the article, if thoughts can do that to water, imagine what our thoughts can do to us. Up to 60% of our body is water. And again, folks, then take it a step further. Take it a step further, because that's the difference. See that image right there? That's the difference. The other one you saw was a malformed hate message. That's what the thought thank you looks like when you look at it through an oscilloscope and a microscope. It actually forms these words. The words actually, when you think of the word thank you, when you think of the word love and gratitude, this is how the water cells begin to form. In contrast, there's a negative message, hate. There's a comparison. Look at this. There is a comparison under when you examine the water cells. The one on the left is you make me sick. The one on the right is love and gratitude. I mean, think about it, guys. Like, this is literally the difference between pessimism on the left, optimism on the right, deadly orgone on the left, positive orgone on the right. What do you do with your water cells? What do you do with programmable matter? Okay. What are you doing with programmable matter every day? The media cycle is literally telling you, you make me sick. You make me sick. And what I'm telling you guys is that the reason why we have to break free of the media cycle is because of this exact thing that you're looking at here. I mean, this is not, take this seriously. This is the ocean. And this is all of us as a collective hive mind. Every minute, every second, every hour, every day, we are programming the water in our bodies, in the bodies of those around us. And so, you know, it's weird, guys, because I've known some pretty rigid Christians, right? And one of them, I remember saying one time, there's this guy that did something horrible. I don't want to say what it was. It's a bad story, but this guy was more like an evangelical Christian. And at the time, and honestly, even now, I don't like him because I don't think he was a sincere Christian. But anyways, he did make a good point that was from Christian philosophy. And there was this guy that did something pretty horrible that was working at the company that I was at. I do kind of agree on this core point to some degree, on this part of it. The guy's crime is entirely his own. What he did, I'm not going to say what it was, but it was bad. And but there's an aspect to it where the boss said something to the effect of like, what happened to that man? On some level, everybody is responsible for what happened to him. I mean, and I was thinking to myself, well, that's kind of bullshit because I'm not responsible for what he did. He did that completely on his own. At the same time, though, folks, we're programming water with every thought that we focus and concentrate on. So believing in one another and having faith in one another, yeah, I mean, you don't want to be stupid and foolish, but yeah, it matters. Having faith in one another and having a sense of belief in absence of evidence. This is I pulled that actually from Hal Hartley film. It's a beautiful film called Flirt, and a character makes a point um, that love how is it? No, faith with an absence of evidence. So having faith in absence of evidence, or having faith in requiring evidence in order to have faith, is not faith. That's the line. Sorry, I kept on screwing it up. And I like that the character makes a point to say that, right? Because on some level, like, people need to understand how on like I can approach every person that comes at me with cynicism, and maybe I have a reason to feel that way. Any of us do, right? Maybe we've been had things go on in our lives and we feel like whatever. I would argue though that there's a spiritual war that's on to almost make people feel that way, and that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy once they get enough people bitter and angry and feeling like isolated and wanting to feel shut out. COVID did a great job of that. It made a whole bunch of people just start to feel that way. They hived into that energy. They stayed isolated, they stayed inside, and they were afraid. They believed. Think about what belief does. I would argue COVID, for a lot of people, believing in it did this to their bodies. And I think that what you see, guys, honestly, and it's more of a, I'm just speaking more in terms of like thoughts become things, and when you're programming the water cells in your body, then yeah, you have to be giving it positive messaging. And the thing that I remember the last couple years is I just didn't believe in it. I didn't believe that that thing existed the way people said it did, and as a result, I never programmed the water in my body to ever accept the virus. It never happened to me. I never got it. It never happened. It just didn't happen because I wasn't thinking of a virus. I wasn't thinking of a virus. I would argue, though, guys, that part of the game of what these people do in naming viruses, even especially terminal ones, is they take words that mean help or facilitate or aid, collective, group together to facilitate help. They turn that into a disease that's terminal illness. Corona is a an aura. It's a glow. It's a glowing ring. It's an emission of energy. It's life. And they turn it into something people fear. They turn it into something that kept everybody jobless, and made a lot of people homeless, and made a lot of people lose their businesses. It caused broken up relationships. It caused all kinds of stress in people's lives. And they now have it associated with the word that effectively it means life energy. An emission, a glow of life energy, an aura, a corona, a crown, a halo, if you will. Now damned, hexed, and cursed in the collective hive mind with a negative association, where a word that used to mean a glow of life now lings like bleh, bad, bad, bad. Interesting what they do with programming water, is it not? They go for multiple iterations of this collective hive mind manipulations to get everybody to program disaster, to program disease, to program weather events, folks, because I would argue that most weather events are psychoenergetic events. They involve human brainwave. It's an interaction of human brainwave and earth and ionospheric conditions, yes, but humans are creating the ionospheric conditions because we bend the plasma field, and everything that you're looking at up there. See, brainwaves are hiving together down here. We are HARP. People, remember this. If you know what HARP is, don't feel defeated. Know what HARP is. Remember that. If you know what HARP is, start to GNO. what HARP is. Use your own HARP. Use it with others, because you and other people can do the same thing. HARP is replicating how we structure physical reality and bend plasma. It just does it in a way more precise grid form. That's it. But humans are running around doing what HARP does all the time. We are. A corona, a crown. See the swirl? Even I don't know if you can see it on my head, but yeah, like there's a swirl pattern to the follicle, right? Can't probably see it. Maybe I can get it to. But what I mean to say is like right here has that swirl, right? So it's plasma. Right in here, okay, is a generator. Rather, it's forming, it's help forming what you perceive as the 3D prism of what you're structuring right in front of you. So the media cycle is taking advantage of the collective access to all of us to backdoor false perceptions and change the meaning of one thing to the other. Literally, folks, what they're doing is, I would argue, if you look at this chart more carefully, they're taking the real news, which is love and gratitude very frequently, and they're turning it into, you make me sick. That's what fake news is in a nutshell. It takes the real story on the right and turns it into the story on the left. Because at the core of what these people are doing to the groups that consume the media is they're trying to destructure you psychologically. They do it through manipulation of brainwave, which bends plasma, which changes physical reality and completely changes an entire nation like that. And what's happened to our country. Please, I mean, folks, those who are on the fence, I promise you there's something that's nearly weaponized going on with this, brute force weaponized. And the enemy is in our own backyard. They've lulled us into sleep for a very long time, manipulating this, convincing us that love and gratitude is you make me sick. Love and gratitude is you make me sick. And this changes physical reality. Do you get enough people think that aren't thinking love and gratitude? What I'm telling you guys is that this thought here, that makes it to where nothing forms from the water cell. It just stays dormant and flat and dead. It's pessimism expressed in something physical that you can actually look at. This is pessimism. That's optimism. Pessimism here, optimism there. You're choosing to form something that's actually going to structure into something you can look at and go, wow, look at that beautiful structure. I mean, even I would argue the snowflake, yeah, under a microscope, it looks like a snowflake, but see what look at how there's almost nodes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. See how they little things? Okay. That's the bion structure. And I would argue every one of those little pinpoints you see is going to latch on to another one that's similar because it's a frequency that's programming into that cell structure. And then the other ones that have a similar cell structure bind to the other ones. So they go like the other snowflake will go bing, boom, 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 boom. All the ones on the right will find one another. And that's the love frequency. They flow through the water. They all find one another, these perfectly formed ones, and those little pinpoints, they go. Then you get circular grids. Then all of them get larger, 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 larger. That's in the biofield. Then it manifests in the physical reality. Whatever the love and gratitude, the emotions of it, and it could just be, just respect. I mean, it could just be honor, respect, integrity. It doesn't have to be those specific words, folks. It could be the things that bring you to work every day and make it to where you show up. That could be just, providing for your family or yourself, or or whatever. I mean, the thing that actually motivates you to get you there. And a lot of times for a lot of people, that's love. Right? I mean, is it not? I mean, love and lust and a sense of want and desire, that's what manifests life in and of itself. That's what brings more life into manifestation, which does what? Generates more of these bions, which generates more inventions, which generates more buildings and more roads and more houses and more children and more families and more churches and more whatever. If you like shopping centers, you can have those too. It's more of everything. It manifests things into physical reality. All right. Don't mean to keep beating that one over the head excessively, folks. It's just and I know you guys get it here, but I want this to be a part of any discussion that I do when I start getting into like, negative topics, or I start decrypting the news cycle. Sorry about my goofiness there. Hang on. Just trying to find more. Wow. I got a lot of these goofy faces on here. They're not even letting me change them. All right. I think that was it as far as the Emoto. Yeah. That was it for those slides and everything like that. But all right. So we're about 40 some minutes in. So let me get into the next part of this, folks. Those unfamiliar. So I'm going to get into this whole, we're 41 minutes in. So maybe I should say, um, let me leave a note here. 41 minutes in. The Russia USA topic. All right. So now I'm going to get into, now that I talked about that, I want to like bridge that into this next part involving this whole thing with Russia, Britney Granier. I don't know how you say it. I haven't heard anybody say it in the news. I don't watch a lot of like news channels, guys, as weird as that sounds. So if it's not, there's like a handful of commentators I might listen to from time to time. And I listen to Fulford and some others, but there's not a lot that I listen to regularly. But this story in particular has been kind of well, guys, it reminds me a lot of this whole thing going on with Elon Musk and Twitter right now. It's one of those things where it's designed to where if I present an opinion that's neither leftist or right centric, just by virtue of the position I'm taking, it does appear that I'm taking one rigid position from one of those directions when I'm not. So example, in the United States right now, if you as a person show any amount of suspicion towards what Elon Musk is doing or why he's involved, there is immediate suspicion cast on you by a whole bunch of these mockingbird right-wing shills that will immediately go like, oh no, Elon is a hero and he's saving our country. I don't buy your lack of sophistication. I don't. I really don't. I don't buy it. I don't buy the lack of sophistication on the vast majority of these media personalities that are acting like everything this man touches turns to gold. Okay, it's just not true. It's a big setup, you guys. Like, I'm going to say this again one more time with this Trump or this Twitter thing, even with him like bringing all these different people on the thing again. You guys are learning to kiss the ass of the masters who did it to you over and over and over again. Then they place their own hero in there to rescue you from the situation that they all put you in. And he is one of them. And it's only going to get worse. So stop buying that Elon is saving you. This is what the mafia that Elon is in has to do to get your trust back. And you're buying it line and sinker, and stop it. It is the mafia tricking you. That mafia, the Khazarian mafia. This is their 2.0. It is. It's their 3.0. Wake up. Come on, guys. Do you honestly believe the guy behind Neuralink? Yeah, I guess you all forgot while he's dumping all of this information. He conveniently at the same time goes, "Oh, and by the way, let's start some human trials with these brain implants." Bye. Did y'all forget about that? Reading your mind with brain implants. What could go wrong? Well, somebody has to. It might as well be me, the one you love, right? It's not like your love of me wasn't completely manufactured. Yeah, it's manufactured. So just wake up, guys. Oh my God, dude, like why do people lack sophistication on this? I don't understand. I don't even think it's real, guys. I think especially when I get flooded with people that try to like present that with me, those are part of the shillery. I don't even think most people authentically believe this. I think that the people that are around me have to be more sophisticated than to buy this bullshit. You have to be at this point. I would hope. You must know that he's full of shit. If guys, how much human trafficking would $44 billion ended? If you really want to beat the core problem, you have to defeat human trafficking. You have to put a dent in it that's significant globally. Right now, it is a free for all. They're getting away with it in ways that are just obscene and absurd and right in front of everybody. If you don't end that, you don't solve most of the world's problems. So rather than chase after all of the lesser difficult issues that are only like extensions of the human trafficking economy, maybe go right after the big one. And then once you get the big one, then all the other problems just kind of go away on their own. Not completely, but they're reduced significantly. Then it occurred to me that for some of these folks, they really don't want that to happen. So here's what I'm going to say about, you know, um, this thing involving Russia and Britney Granier. All right. So the first thing that I'm seeing floated around here, guys, is comparisons. Those unfamiliar, do folks here all kind of know what's going on with this story? Effectively, there is a women's NBA player. Let's get up some article on it so I'm not just like speaking out of my ass here. Hang on. Okay. I'll just find like any story I can from any major media organization without looking too deep. Of course, NBC shows up at the top of the results. Our reality brought to us by NBC. Thank you, NBC. Appreciate that. All right, and WNBA star Britney Griner. Is it Griner? Oh man, I spelled it wrong, guys. Sorry about that. Man, I cannot believe I did that. Hang on. Oh, I'll have to edit it afterwards. Sorry, guys. I kept on seeing Granier, so it's Griner. Sorry about that. It's Brittany Griner. So I apologize for that. So all right, not doing too good on my name things here, guys. I apologize. Like I said, I didn't have a um I know about the story and I know basically what they're doing with it. So hang on really quick here. I didn't mean to misspell that. And of course it's NBC, so I have to like give them money if they want to keep seeing it. So hang on, let me go to CBS. Actually, that's probably not even the right one. Yeah, I don't care how everybody else reacts to it. Hang on. All right, let's do this one. So the thing I started noticing in some of the reports that were floating around about Brittany Griner is that they were making comparisons to like why did Biden trade um, a WNBA player that's in a Russian prison? You gotta be shitting me. All right, guys. Obviously, NBC isn't the place to go for this article because they're going to keep putting pop-up ads. You gotta be shitting me with this. All right. What in the very fuck, guys? You get the feeling like because there's a really good internet connection here, and none of this shit's showing up like in any normal way. So let me just bear with me here. All right, senior administration officials said Griner had been released from the penal colony within the last 48 hours and taken to Moscow before flying to the United Arab Emirates and is currently on her way back to the United States. In a speech at the White House, Biden said the exchange had been in the works for the past 2 weeks and he had given the final go ahead. He added that he had spoken with Griner on the phone. Griner's wife, Sherelle Griner, was at the White House on Thursday. Biden said the past 2 months have been hell for Britney, but that she is in good spirits. So, those who are unfamiliar with the story here, it says a 10-month saga ended Thursday with President Joe Biden announcing a return to the United States and a prisoner swap with Russia. Griner attempted to enter Russia in February and instead wound up facing drug charges that carried a 9-year prison sentence in a penal colony. The two-time Olympic gold medal winner and 8-time WNBA All-Star was wrongfully detained, according to the United States government, by Russia on charges of bringing vape cartridges filled with hashish oil in her luggage while returning to play for her professional team there. Griner remained in pretrial detention for more than 3 months prior to her trial. On August 4th, she was officially convicted for drug possession and smuggling. 4 months later, she was free. All right. So the reason why I wanted to bring this up, guys, is because there's a story that I started to research about 2 years ago involving an American citizen. Wait, no, hold on. Let's back this up here because I'm not going to repeat the propaganda. What I just said to you is not accurate. So let me say this one more time. It's semi-accurate. So let's go over this again. The first thing that you'll notice if you look up, I'm just going to get rid of these things because they're just taking up bandwidth. Yeah, note to self, do not get on NBC for any news stories. Holy shit, what a waste of time. I should have known that. All right, guys, here's where there's some clever manipulation that reminds me a lot of this Elon Musk thing. So think about it, guys. Like, I have a contrarian position to the Elon Musk thing, but how are Elon Musk detractors presented? They're all the bleeding heart, quote, liberals that don't like that he's releasing all the Twitter files. And I'm like, oh, no, quite the contrary, guys. I'm definitely not in opposition of that. I say as much as you can release, all of it's good. What I'm telling you guys is, though, if we're getting this as the population, and he's the guy, then he's being given to us to be the gifted hero to us. Don't you understand that? He's as much responsible. Like, they do this to us all the time, guys. Like, Iraq is a great example. There's this guy named David Kay that was a military analyst that straight up fucking lied to get us into that war. Did you guys know that? It leads back to some central places. Number one, a guy named David Kay. Number two, he worked for Science Applications International Corporation. Yes, the one I'm always talking about, psychic research, the one that does the phone number pools, the one that has all the internet addresses, that SAIC. SAIC with David Kay lied to get us into the Iraq war. And then once it was revealed that he straight up lied and that SAIC planted all the suggestions and thoughts that got everybody in the military worked up and believing this false narrative, then they in turn brought in their own characters to come with the media included to then, instead of punish David K for being the big liar that cost all these soldiers lives, they turned him into a huge hero. They turned him into a, well, not a huge hero, but they basically found a way to get it to be where like he could just go like, yeah, sorry about that, everybody. And they're like, wow, what integrity this guy has. They're always doing that. So like we weren't in that mess without SAIC. And then when we suddenly have an excuse to get out of the mess, then SAIC and their little cast of characters were the ones that were I guess, responsible for telling the real story to the media. Oh, yeah, sure. We're the ones that willfully lied to you to begin with, but now we're telling you the truth. So aren't we cool? Celebrate us. Celebrate us. Wow, guys. Why? It's all right. I understand. It takes some time to get through it. All right, so I'm going to show you something here. This is what is sort of like the Elon Musk thing with the Britney Granier, Paul Whelan thing. It's the same dynamic, guys. How else do I say this? I know this looks really good, especially if you're a Marine or you served in the military. If you don't look deeper into Whelan's history, if you don't look deeper into every aspect as to why Whelan was arrested in Russia, then you're going to buy this bullshit narrative that's being spun right now. And it's very effective. This is like one of those multifaceted 2 or 3 tiers of deception type things going on with whoever's negotiating this shit with Russia. And they're always fucking with Russia. Guys, it's a miracle that Russia hasn't done something to us by now. And this is our problem. It's not because America's doing something to Russia. It's because we've got this small percentage of these assholes in our country that control a huge amount of the perception surrounding what we're thinking about the rest of the world. And they're pretty good at convincing the rest of us to believe false narratives for a little bit of time. But that's reducing, and it has been reducing significantly year by year, especially the last 5 years or so. Like they just can't say something and make everybody believe it anymore. People now are kind of going, yeah, whatever. But see, now that we're saying, yeah, whatever, we don't really know what to do about it after that. Do we just keep letting these fuckers lie to us? I say it's criminal, guys. I do. I say there has to be some point where straight up fictionalizing and syndicating fake news stories, we have to find some happy balance between maintaining free speech and getting this whole crisis actor reality manifestation network out of the way. Or we have to become more sophisticated at saying, okay, those people aren't reporting news. That is a collective of networks that have agreed upon a false narrative that they're all going to repeat and get us to repeat. Rinse, repeat, rinse, repeat. Famous person that got kidnapped and murdered, probably fake. Famous serial killer, probably fake. Don't get me wrong. People actually do get murdered. People actually do get robbed or stolen from in these cons or whatever else like that. But the story you get as the public to consume is almost always fake. It's there to get you looped into the media cycle and going like, oh, I can't wait to see what Jodi Arias did. I can't wait to see what Gabby Petito's into. I can't wait to see what happened with so-and-so. All these different stories are like, really? How do you guys really know what these things are? They're occult magic. Jeffrey Dahmer, occult magic. John Wayne Gacy, occult magic. Mass resonance manipulation and structural psychology, priming fear. They create entire serial killers that keep everybody, Son of Sam, the Zodiac, the Green River Killer. Yes, people do die, but see, they create a lot of fake things surrounding some real things to amplify the effect of the whole fakeness of it. So what I'm telling you is in a lot of these cases, like the person that you saw that wound up getting put in front of the cameras, they were just one of many, or they weren't even the person that actually did it. So you need to start looking into what's going on with this whole thing with Britney Griner and Paul Whelan and Russia in a similar light. So about 2 years ago, I was really heavy into reading one of the Russian researchers, Valery Uvarov, has amazing material involving energetics and just in general disclosure on topics that Western audiences very seldom get access to because we are very censored as a culture and we just don't recognize it. And again, what the West does constantly is this talk about the oppression of Russians and the oppression of the Russian culture, and it's just not true. It's true here. We're the oppressive culture. We're the ones that censor people. We're the ones here in America that are doing this to our own people. It's happening to me. It's happening to a whole bunch of people in our country. The problem is now we're being wired to think that Elon's our hero, and he's just not. He's in charge of Skynet. Jesus Christ, you guys, will you figure it the fuck out? He's the new Werner von Braun. They just can't have them come out and go like, yeah, sorry about the Nazi lineage and background, everybody. Sorry about that. See, now we wouldn't buy it. So you have to come up with characters that are kind of cool. You know, they kind of gain your confidence. Just wake up, guys. It's not what you think. You're just being duped. But I get it, okay? So we're happy. Like, we're getting some, you know, like, okay, Twitter targeted a bunch of us. Okay, but guys, probably right down to the reporters, all of this is just theater for you to now they're going to elect your new heroes for you to bring your truth to. And they become the new gatekeepers to truth. And how do you know you can trust them as gatekeepers to the truth? By the way, guys, you know, the guy that Elon Musk is releasing this all to is notorious for basically calling anybody who has any alternative theories on 9/11 conspiracy theorists and crazy. Matt Taibbi, yeah, he doesn't respect you. If you're on that side of the community and you have some things that have like a little bit of fringe or whatever, he's one of those establishment like alt media guys that likes to toe that line of like going, I don't go that far. Oh yeah, okay. So what you're seeing here is every bit as theater as guys. It's like Jack Dorsey and Elon Musk. They just like it's lucha libre. Look, I'm going to steal let's all steal the election and give it to our guy. And then after it's all been revealed, I'll be the guy that becomes their hero by showing them how we fucked them all over. Ha ha ha. And so then everybody just trusts like one of the guys that was involved because he's telling you that they did it. Oh my God. Of course, it's not direct. It's not direct involvement. You guys are all going to start forgetting if you start going back into old Elon's history. He was pro-vax. He acts like a bunch of the people that are now like celebrating him called you all conspiracy theories right along with these guys like Matt Taibbi. It doesn't mean though, guys. So seriously, like think about it though. My position though is I love it when things like this happen and it's real, but this probably isn't real. That's the problem. It's being manufactured so that you will trust their pre-selected group of people. It's going to be whoever is going to be in charge of every Twitter post is going to be the new person that you are, if you're in the middle between left and right, where you've got some disclosure, suddenly they're going to be the new gatekeepers. Oh, I can trust them. Bet you thought you could trust Snowden. I bet you thought that WikiLeaks released everything. I bet you thought, I mean, like all of these things, guys, I've knocked on the door of a lot of these places, guys. Like my information is like too heavy for all of them. They act like I don't fucking exist. So I know it's all a lot of theater. I know it is. Because I've got documentation. I'm one of the few people that just didn't make all their shit up out of thin air with a script writer. I've had to live my situation. It's all documented. Critics bash Britney Granier prison swap for excluding Whelan. Experts say there's little wiggle room. Okay. This is when I got really suspect of the media cycle, guys, because 2 years ago I was studying this whole Whelan thing, and I observed that the spokesman or spokesperson for the ambassador to Russia, the U.S. ambassador to Russia, her name was Rebecca Ross, and she was just trolling Russia at every phase of everything. Like there was no like, United States would like to have a more harmonious relationship with Russia. So again, as the ambassador to Russia, we would like to extend a friendly offer for a discussion, blah, blah, blah. Nothing like that. It was like, well, you guys have one of our prisoners, and you guys are anti-gay, and you guys are homophobic, and you guys, ban reporters. I mean, that's what all the messages from the U.S. embassy to Russia are like. None of them are like reaching across the aisle. How can we make things work better? Nothing like that. And that's the relationship of ambassadors, guys. It's not supposed to be volatile. Even if U.S. and Russia are not getting along, the ambassador's role should be to be like, guys, let the presidents and all of them figure that out. We're here to like do things that are more middle ground, diplomatic, and don't involve all that, including fighting human trafficking. Interesting that of all the people they have running like all the messaging from that agency 2 years ago is a lady named Rebecca, because the Oddfellows and Rebecca's guys. I mean, they're doing a lot of the disinformation. So I was like, oh, really? Rebecca Ross, huh? Okay. So when I saw that, it caused me to like dig deeper into what's going on between Russia and this guy, Paul Whelan. And 2 years ago, I'll show you what I found. This is when I got kind of like, I started wondering what was going on, because Wikipedia, now that everybody's bringing up Paul Whelan, Wikipedia has conveniently gone in and scrubbed his story to make him seem like a person that is not who he is. So let me explain something to you about Paul Whelan. If you trust the media cycle, who almost never gives any like sincere respect to veterans or their issues, now they're all championing U.S. Marine, retired U.S. Marine Paul Whelan. Hold up, guys. Hold up. Calling Paul Whelan an innocent retired U.S. Marine is a complete deception. Number one, born in Canada, relocated to the United States, and carries a passport from Canada first and foremost, secondary from the United States, and then he has them from the United Kingdom and Ireland. This man holds 4 passports, and he was not born in the United States. So, at best, he's a Canadian-born repatriate, or whatever, Canadian expat, went to America and decided to live the American life. But there's still not a really good, solid excuse as to why he holds 4 passports from different countries. Okay, now let me show you something. All right. So 2 years ago, if you looked up Paul Whelan on Wikipedia, this is what you would read about his career in the Marines. He was part of Operation Iraqi Freedom. After a court-martial conviction in January 2008 on multiple counts related to larceny, he was sentenced to 60 days reduction to pay grade E4, and a bad conduct discharge. The specific charges against him included attempting to steal more than $10,000 in 2008 in Iraq and using a false social security number to create a false account on a government computer system to grade his own examinations. But right now, the media cycle is promoting this idea that he is a retired U.S. Marine and says no more than that. Guys, do you think there's a little bit of lying by omission going on here? Just a little bit? Guys, I respect the military like you would not believe. And I definitely respect our veterans. But I believe that what's going on here is designed to manipulate them more than anybody. Because here's the thing, guys. 95% of America is not going to look up what I just showed you. They're going to read the newspaper and they're going to get outraged and go like, yeah, man. Yeah, how come we just went and got this stoner, female basketball player and we didn't go pick up Paul Whelan? Okay, guys, well, this is the trick. This is the trick. They're trying to get both people. They don't. Ugh. Does this make sense to you guys? What they're doing? Is it what I'm telling you? They're starting to like jive a little bit. What's happening here? Paul Whelan. If you research his case, okay. So I just told you what happened to him in the Marine Corps. All right, now there is a news story that gets deep into this. I'll have to find it. I wish I had it right now. I might like play something and then come back to that because I think that's an important thing to be referencing. But if you look into the details of what Paul Whelan was doing in Russia, I think you would agree that something shady was going on there. Number one, I don't remember the exact amount, but it was somewhere in the neighborhood of like $50,000 in cash that he was carrying in Russia, give or take $20,000-$30,000. Like not take, but I feel like it was closer to $80,000, but it was somewhere in that neighborhood. It's like 30, 50, or 80, somewhere there. Okay. But the point is, guys, do you travel with tens of thousands of dollars of cash? Okay. People that travel with tens of thousands of dollars of cash, usually, let's be real here, folks, got something else going on. So was he over in Russia just for a wedding? If number one, if you look into the details behind what he was doing over there, and guys, it's like nobody's going to do this, but you need to. You have to go and find detailed reports into everything that went on while he was in Russia. He alleged to be over there for a wedding, but the people involved with the wedding said the guy was like nowhere to be found most of the time, and he seemed to be doing side deals with other folks. And then he claims that he got this drive filled with a bunch of Russian spy agency identities and locations like by accident, and that he didn't know what it was. But he also had tens of thousands of dollars in cash on him, and the wedding he was going to travel there for, people didn't really see him at. At some point, guys, you have to call bullshit on this. The Russians did. He got arrested. He had the information. Now everybody's got going, I don't know what happened. We got to get this U.S. Marine out of jail. Guys, he's fucking up our reputation over there. Are you cool with that? If you're down with stealing their secrets, okay. But just remember, guys, if you're going to send somebody over there to go steal their secrets, they're going to get picked up and stuck in jail for over a fucking decade. What would we do? Oh, let's get into that. What would we do? What would the United States do to somebody in a similar position? Well, I can tell you what they did to a guy that just stole credit card numbers. No, not the identities of Russian spies. No. This wasn't a Russian. I'm going to tell you a story about what America did to a Russian. Roman Seleznev got over 30 years. Paul Whelan got 16 years. Paul Whelan stole Russian state secrets. Roman Seleznev stole credit card numbers. The United States didn't just arrest him, they tracked his ass to the Maldives and did a gray area, technically illegal arrest of him in another country where they had no extradition laws. Brought him to the United States. He's got a wife and a kid, and he's going to spend 3 decades in a United States prison. And we've got these people over here going, what about Paul Whelan? Internal accountability, motherfuckers. America needs to get some. See, we need to be like more like looking into these things as like we have to be smarter, because sometimes it doesn't always make us look good. Sometimes we're going to dig deep and we're going to learn something that's being spun involving these relationships. We're going to kind of go like, this is not a healthy position for anybody in the United States to be taking, that Paul Whelan is the hero in this situation and whatever else like that. It makes us look bad, you guys. And it intentionally fans the flames to troll a war with Russia. And they already got a proxy war going on with them via Ukraine. And if you think that the Ukraine is just about Ukraine pushing back at Russia and America funding them, you're wrong. That's what's called a proxy war. That's America sending as much weapons and funds to the border of Russia to do as much of the dirty work of deep staters in the United States to Russia without it being attributed directly to the United States. So they get all the Nazis that are on the border to do it for them. And they are Azov battalion Nazis. I'm not making that up. Those are Nazis. They're funding Nazis. But guess what? What do they call Putin? What do they call him even being over there? They act like he's Hitler. They act like they're Nazis. No. The Russians defeated the Nazis. Who are the numbnuts believing this shit? But they're all over the place, guys. Because this media cycle is very effective at this. They're very effective at making us believe false narratives. All right, why do I have this on the screen? Read that. That's from Wikipedia. Guess what'll happen now, though? If you go into Wikipedia today, now that Paul Whelan, they're trying to create this case to make him look like a hero, this story has been completely scrubbed. You see, you know what's omitted from it if you go on Wikipedia now? I'll show it to you if you want. Now, if you go into Wikipedia, they're going to eliminate that whole thing about him stealing $10,000 while he was serving in Iraq. Guys, don't you think it makes a big difference? Can you really call yourself a retired U.S. Marine if you stole $10,000 while you were enlisted, cheated on your exams, broke into government machines to grade your own exams, stole Social Security numbers to create a false identity? That is not a retired Marine. That is a disgraced person that sneaked their way in and got discharged. So stop spinning it in the media that he's a retired U.S. Marine that did the right thing. He's a guy that was that shady while he was serving in our armed forces. He was shady. He did things to make it to where, guys, the Marines, in order for them to function properly, rely upon the knowledge of the Marines. These people have to know what they know. You can't fake it till you make it. You need to know what you know. If they need you to learn something and you're being tested on it, and this guy is going in and saying, yeah, well, I'm just going to fudge my numbers and cheat on this and switch this around. He did that, you guys. So let's just stop calling him a retired Marine. He was discharged for cheating and stealing and lying. And then he went to Russia and had tens of thousands of dollars of cash on him and got caught with a USB drive filled with Russian spies' identities. You know what? You know something, guys? Let's kind of look at this a little bit objectively here and just stop thinking about what side you're on. I get it. I'm American. I am American. I want the United States to thrive. I care about our country. But this type of imbalance in the way you treat one group's, citizen versus the way we've treated theirs, there's an imbalance. And the imbalance is not in favor of the way the United States has conducted themselves. That's all I'm saying. And I love America. But this has to get corrected. This type of bullshit can't go on. We need to understand this better. Everybody does. Do you understand how simple of an understanding people have of this case involving Paul Whelan? They don't dig deeper. They don't dig deeper. And guys, this one was such a mindfuck for me because I have a lot of respect for the military, especially the Marines. And before I'm going to say some shit like this, because I never served, you guys, I'm going to say that straight up. And I apologize to my veteran viewers. I realize that these aren't the type of criticisms that technically should come from a person that didn't serve. And I'm going to leave it up to you to judge those things. I'm not going to say one way or the other, but I think we'd agree that cheating on your exams and stealing 10 grand, not really things that Marines do. And he holds 4 passports and was born in Canada. So stop calling him a retired U.S. Marine. No. He's a guy that holds citizenship in 4 countries that snuck his way into the Marines and cheated and lied and stole at every verification point. Maybe not everyone. That's a bit of an exaggeration. So I apologize for putting it that way. But get what I mean to say, guys, is in critical verification points involving integrity, lying, cheating, steal, he's not looking good. So if you're going to save a Marine, save one that actually lives by the standards that Marines live by. Don't promote this one as one of our best. Don't promote this one as, hey, you guys, you shouldn't be holding him there. No, it sounds to me like he was doing the dirty work of the CIA. The CIA got caught, and they're using their Mockingbird journalists to spin the story, like they always do. So I'm just here, just the guys, for the sake of peace. I'm just telling you guys, like, Russia knows how full of shit our media cycle is. So the one of the reasons why I do what I do the way that I do it is because I love this country. I reached out to Russia to let them know. Like, I've sent letters to the Russian embassy, letting them know, like, guys, I know why things are so messed up. It's exactly the things I'm trying to explain to you guys here. There's, and those unfamiliar guys, let me show you something really quick. So that's Paul Whelan. And feel free, guys, go look him up on Wikipedia and see if you can find any reference to him stealing $10,000 there today. I'll show it to you right now, guys. If you look it up, I'll show you, I'll compare them side by side. I don't like to leave this like at all questionable. All right. So notice, like, if you look at this particular section here, just compare them, guys. This is the exact same paragraph on Wikipedia today. And the one that I showed you is from 2 years ago. Notice what's missing. And I'll go back to the other one. It says here, he was part of Operation Iraqi Freedom after a court-martialed conviction in January 2008 on multiple counts related to larceny. He was sentenced to 60 days restriction, reduced to pay grade E4 and a bad conduct charge. Now, they actually tell you today that he did in fact have dereliction of duty, false official statement, wrongfully using another social security number, and 10 specifications of making and uttering checks without having sufficient funds in his account for payment. But you notice what's missing. They omit that he stole $10,000. Why do you think that they would do that? Because you see, guys, doing things like stealing $10,000 or omitting the fact that he was found in Russia with bags full of cash of tens of thousands of dollars, those aren't normal behaviors of people who are behaving themselves. Those are behaviors of people who are operating in gray areas, who are either buying guns, drugs, people, or information. Those are the kind of people that typically walk around with tens of thousands of dollars of cash, especially to foreign countries, especially when they have military or intelligence history. So don't try to spin this, Mockingbird journalists. It ain't going to work this time. Shutting it down. You're just going to have to start being nice and being honest. Sorry. So what we have, guys, is like, you see why I don't get the kind of like presence that I need to on the I've just pissed off so many different power players that control your perceptions by just explaining this the way that I did. It's okay to question the Whelan narrative and respect the Marines. I would argue that you're especially respecting the you're especially respecting our Marine Corps by questioning this narrative. Just allowing it to dangle out there the way that it is, it tarnishes their reputations as the honorable branch that they are. They're a very honorable branch with a very distinguished history in America. I mean, I respect all the military, but I'm just telling you, like, the Marines specifically are ones, like, I've known folks in the military, in the Marines specifically, and I had a high level of respect for them. And I know how good the training is there and the levels of integrity that they have or they have to achieve in order to get there to begin with. So, you know, there's respect. That's all I'm trying to say, guys. So this is not an easy topic for me to handle, but you'll notice right there, nowhere anywhere. That's the exact same paragraph I showed you earlier, and I'm going to switch back to it in a second. This is today. If you go to Wikipedia and look up Paul Whelan, that's what it says. This is why you got to be real suspect of Wikipedia always, and always screenshot it. Always screenshot it and see what they changed, because I'm going to show you how it changed. So you got that. Now back to the old entry. Now what does it say? The specific charges against him included attempting to steal more than $10,000 in 2006. See that? Can we all agree that's the same paragraph from Wikipedia? Up here it says, and he was part of Operation Iraqi Freedom. Then it goes to the next sentence, after a court martial. Now let's go back to the old one. Keep this in mind, guys. Right there, third sentence in, it says $10,000, right? Let's go back. Stop screen, present. Here's the new updated one now that he's in the news again, and they're trying to manipulate your perceptions. A total omission of him stealing $10,000 from the U.S. military. Now you know why these deep state labs have entire staffs that do nothing but submit edits to Wikipedia all day. It's their full-time jobs, manipulating our data sets and all of our reference points, making sure that we get their version of events, not reality. And guys, you're not even getting the whole story and what happened down in Russia. Like, they're not even coming close to telling you what he did when he was over there. It's nowhere inside the wiki story. They completely omit what actually happened over there. And there's plenty of like press articles on it. Now I'm going to show you why, guys, that those of you who've been watching my channel for a while, things might get more interesting. And again, guys, I'm not looking forward to it necessarily, but this channel may get more viewers. It's inevitable, because all of these storylines are starting to merge into everything that I've been telling you guys about for the last 5 or 6 years. It's getting to the point now where the search results on the web, unless somebody's doing something intense to start to manipulate them, I am one of the only people in America that even talks about Roman Seleznev. Most people completely delete or omit, or they just avoid the topic altogether, only talk about it in a surface level way. And I've been doing reports on the Roman Seleznev case going back for years now, because it involves my own aunt. Okay, guys, so those unfamiliar, I've told you this the last few presentations, but I'll say it again. My aunt Kathryn Warma is a retired Department of Justice Cybercrime Division attorney from Seattle, Washington. She is blacklisted from Russia. I repeat, I am related to a former DOJ attorney, Cybercrime Division attorney, blacklisted from Russia. I have a relative that is not allowed to ever enter Russia, ever. That's how I have a different perspective on things, okay? The difference, I guess, is that you probably wouldn't expect me to have, is that I agree with Russia in their decision. And I don't even say that with direct animosity over that specific issue towards my aunt. I'm saying that when I looked into the details of the case, their decision made sense to me. They've identified my aunt and people close to her as being central to fakery of events. They fake things. They set up people, I think, is what the Russians believe. Okay. And if the Russians don't trust that things were done on the up and up, and that she and 3 other people in the Department of Justice were central to those decisions, that would have been what drove them to ban her from that country. So I can show you guys, I've done articles on it. I'll just show you real quick here. Hang on. There's a story by Sputnik. You can find us, and I can even put a link for it for you, because the mainstream press in America basically did not report that Russia blacklisted my aunt. They kind of just left it by the wayside. I was having a challenging time finding any references to it, guys, but it was reported on Sputnik. So give me a second to find that real quick. I have a copy of it, but And then ever since the war in Ukraine, they do all kinds of things to hide um, hide certain news channels and everything like that. But you can still access Sputnik in America, surprisingly. So I'm going to put here article about Roman Seleznev and my aunt Kathryn Orma being blacklisted. All right, so there's the headline. And again, sorry if this is redundant for those who are more familiar with my channel, but I have to talk about it if we're going to get into this topic. It's kind of almost like a full disclosure, or what do you want to call it? Like, just so you guys know that I'm being forthright with all the information. So I do have personal connections to this. So to be clear, the woman that's in this news story is my aunt. She married in through my uncle by blood. So I'm not related to her through blood. I'm related to her because she married my uncle, who is a blood relative of mine. That would be my uncle Ricardo Cruz. And so since she didn't take on his name when they got married, she kept her old name. You won't find her going by Kathryn Cruz. She'll always be out there being called Kathryn Hormel. But they are married to this day, at least last I checked. So it says Russia has blacklisted 4 U.S. Justice Department officials: Charles Seth Wilkinson, Ethan Ray Aronson, Kathryn Worma, Norman Barbosa, related to last year's detention of Russian citizen Roman Seleznev. Sorry, guys, I think I need my reading glasses. I'm going to get geeky on you here. All right, Russia blacklisted 4 U.S. Justice Department officials related to last year's detention of Russian citizen Roman Seleznev by U.S. Secret Service agents in the Maldives. Russian Foreign Ministry said the following U.S. Department of Justice officials related to the abduction of our compatriot Roman Seleznev in July 2014 in the Maldives have been put on the list. And so that's, again, the names Charles Seth Wilkinson, Ethan Ray Aronson, Kathryn Worma, and Norman Barbosa, the Foreign Ministry's statement said. According to U.S. prosecutors, between October 2009 and October 2013, Seleznev hacked into retail point-of-sale systems and installed malware in order to steal more than 2 million credit card numbers from a number of businesses. Last July, Seleznev was detained by U.S. forces in Maldives, taken to Guam, and then Washington. Russia's foreign ministry and Seleznev's father branded the incident a kidnapping. December 2012, the U.S. Senate passed the Magnitsky Act, which allows Washington to deny visas and freeze the assets of Russian officials allegedly involved in the death and detention of Russian lawyer Sergei Magnitsky. Russia has responded to the Magnitsky Act by issuing its own blacklist, which includes U.S. officials linked to human rights violations, including at the Guantanamo Bay detention camp. Put that in context, folks. That's my aunt that's in that report. And so Russia believes that as America's created the Magnitsky Act, they've created their own thing that says basically people that are involved with human rights violations are placed on their blacklist and are not allowed access to Russia. You know, guys, this is why I think that we have to stop being people that like so rigidly take a position that's so like left or right, and we just have to like dig a little bit deeper. Like if you're going to retweet something or hold a position on something, especially when it comes to these cases, like really understand what it is, because they're trying to manufacture consent into like for a war or a preemptive strike against Russia, which will result in something that, I mean, guys, that's like suicide for America. Do you understand that? Going to war with Russia is suicide. That's not a conflict that we would likely win. I say that with all respect to the U.S. military. It's, guys, it's because like you have to think about this. These people are abusing you. Like these folks that are making these actions are standing behind our soldiers and going like, like holding you up as shields and going like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And holding our soldiers up. And that's not cool. See, they're poking the bear. They keep poking at Russia over this bullshit. And guys, like, they know they wronged. They know they're in the wrong. The people that did this, they know they're in the wrong. Just like when they do shit to us in this country. Think about it, guys. How many Department of Justice decisions in America have gone against something that you would find favorable? Are you starting to see there's a common enemy here? So what I'm explaining to you guys is that this thing going on with Russia is a lot more sophisticated, and what we're witnessing with these news stories. Anytime you see one of these stories that's being positioned where they get you to, Trump's even posting it like, wait, what about Paul Whelan? You guys, it's just more complicated than that. So at the end of the day, guys, was Roman Seleznev guilty? Well, yeah, it appears that he did steal a bunch of credit card numbers. He did put some malware on some machines. That shit did happen. That's not a good thing to do, and it's not cool. But at the end of the day, these are all crimes that are like easily erased. They're not things that like cause a whole ton of permanent damage. And I don't like being a victim of those types of crimes. Trust me, it's happened to me before, and it pisses me off. I've had, things stolen financially, information and shit like that. So it's, again, I'm not I'm not happy with what Roman Seleznev did. There definitely should have been something that, occurs if somebody steals a bunch of information. But like seriously, that guy's gonna spend 30 years in a prison and they kidnapped him to arrest him over credit card numbers? But then we sit here with this false equivalency outrage. Not everybody here, but this same select group. They're poking the bear, going like, and what about Paul Whelan too? Guys, like the imbalance as to like how much they're constantly trolling Russia, supporting this war effort against them. I mean, like all of this is designed basically to troll them into a war that none of us want. I don't want it. I want to see us getting along with Russia. That doesn't mean we have to be there, we don't have to bend over to them, but you have to have respect. You have to approach these issues with honesty because they know bullshit when they see it and hear it, and they know who's making the bullshit up. And got news for you. If they didn't know before 2 years ago, they know now. Because I wrote them. You guys, I didn't even know what I was doing when I did it. You know what's trippy, you guys? I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why this channel is going to be amplified soon. It's inevitable. It has to happen. They're going to try like hell to keep my influence diminished, but it's impossible at this point. I'm this close to a person that Russia is constantly saying that they want freed. Do you guys understand that? I am 1 degree away from a major international story now. My channel is that fucking close to this story you just saw in the mainstream media. You cannot talk about Britney Granier without talking about Roman Seleznev now. The link is made in the algorithms. I am one of the only people in American media that's done any stories on YouTube involving Roman Seleznev, linking it to my aunt and me. That means the algorithms that are searching, when people now start to go like, who's this Seleznev guy they're talking about? Well, you know what they're going to find? Over and over again. And I don't have the mainstream media's narrative. I'm not promoting the same story that he was this malevolent, evil hacker that deserves 30 years in jail. He doesn't. That's ridiculous. It's a financial crime, you guys. It's not a big deal. It just isn't. Money is so illusory. What that guy did compared to what Paul Whelan did, it's like light years away. But see, now what America is going to do is they're going to say like, well, if you want Paul Whelan, maybe we'll give you Roman Seleznev. And let me tell you something, the comparison between these two crimes is like absurd. And for Paul Whelan to sit up there going like, I don't even know what I did. Come on, dude. You had tens of thousands of dollars of cash. You were caught with a USB drive full of Russian spies' identities. Most of the people who said that the wedding that you were there for, you weren't even around for. Like, everything about the guy's story sucks. But none of that's said in American media. It's all concealed. That is the CIA Mockingbird media for you guys. They control all portals. So, don't, guys, what I'm telling you is the only reason why you're getting the Twitter files, the Twitter releases now, is because it's their characters. It is their puppets. They're giving it to you from their own people so that you'll trust them for phase 2. So now the next layer of disclosure, they get to be the gatekeepers. You're not going to bring it to a guy like me. You don't even know who the fuck I am. No, you're going to keep bringing it to the Elons. I believe in brain implants and reading your thoughts. Trust me, what could go wrong? I mean, maybe this is a good thing, guys. Maybe we're going to figure this out. Maybe the people that want to live in some synthetic AI reality can rot inside tenement buildings in little boxy squares. Like the movie, you ever see Death Race 2050, you guys? They foresee some future where people will literally volunteer to die. Trippy, isn't it? Now that you have basically like people volunteering for euthanasia in Canada and them doing commercials to promote the idea. But basically, that movie is, yeah, where people just basically camp out and just stay in virtual reality and absorb cheese whiz antidepressants, literally, like, antidepressants made of cheese whiz, like Zoloft or some shit. Go put it on crackers and shit, just rotting away in synthetic reality environments, wearing VR headsets. They don't care anymore. It's so real when they put on that headset. What the fuck does the outside world have to offer them anymore? What's the point? If benefits are going to meet their basic needs and they can just strap on some freaking helmet that makes them forget that reality even exists, and all they got to do is put that thing on for however many hours a day and then just go to sleep, take it off for a minute to go take a crap, put it back on. Hell, they'll probably find a way to put some little, like, well, they already have. I actually know about it, but I'm not going to go there. Yeah, Fred said I ought to get a free trip to Russia, for this whole thing with my aunt. Well, let me put it to you this way, guys. Like, maybe I should share it with you. I don't know if I should or not. I wrote a letter to the Russian embassy that just detailed everything. Yeah, True Seeker. Yeah, that's a good point here. Sorry about that. I'm not trying to change subjects, but really quick. Yeah, that's a good point, True Seeker. They said the participants in the Canadian euthanasia advertisement did not want to die. I don't know the whole story, guys, but I did hear about one of them. Like, that's what the people were saying, that one of the lady that's in that article in particular, they know for a fact that she didn't want to die. They're like, no, that lady didn't want to die. I don't know why she's in that news article. Why are they using her? She straight up did not want to die. Trippy, ain't it? I mean, they're just like coming out and doing it now, guys. And this is like, so we're finally to the point now where they're just unmasking and they're showing you who they are. Now, this is, like I said, one of the people that were in the mafia aspect close to me straight up said to my face, go ahead and tell everybody, Gabe. Go ahead. You can tell everyone out there in the public, you can tell law enforcement. It's too complicated. No one's ever going to believe you, even if they can understand it. So on that note, maybe I should tell you what I wrote to Russian embassy. Are you guys curious? You want to know? I can tell you. I don't mind. I guess I should. I said it, so I'm going to tell you. It should just be out there, guys, because, I just got to look up Russian embassy. I did a whole letter. Let's see here. This is the final draft, I think. Hmm. Bizarre. Okay. Oh, there it is. All right. So, guys, this was because my situation was getting pretty dire, and I wasn't sure like what I was going to do. Um, I really felt like here's the thing, guys. I'm my own person. Okay, I'm just Gabe, and all I have is me as my own individual self. And I've got relatives that are basically blacklisted from Russia for doing some pretty, like, according to them, the problem is, guys, I just agree with Russia's position on this. I mean, I reviewed it objectively before I even had a negative perception of some of my family, and I was like, I got to be honest with you. Once I dug deep into all the different details of the cases and everyone, whether it was Whelan or it was Seleznev, and in every situation, I just learned that the position that the U.S. is taking is uninformed or just simply wrong. So I think there's people that are good in America that are just accepting on surface level details, things like Paul Whelan equals imprisoned retired U.S. Marine. And they don't dig any deeper past that very basic description that is not accurate. It is not accurate. And I'm trying to get past what I just told you. See, Americans don't know what the problem is, and Russia can't actually make peace with us as a collective society the way that we need to be at peace until this is all understood. Okay. Yeah. And True Seekers said that Russia's in the right with regards to the US and Ukraine. And again, guys, I agree. I'm not going to make any qualms about that. There is a Nazification that happened within Ukraine that's similar to the one that's happened here in the United States. We have Operation Paperclip Nazis that are controlling central parts of our infrastructure. United States is not doing a good job at eradicating them or eliminating them from our infrastructure. And I don't know what the solution is, except to form just a larger collective of groups that just has a global denazification of every country, because it's a cancer. Nazis in a country equals cancers. I don't give a shit. Well, I know right now they're working like overtime to get guys like Yay to get on all these different platforms and go like, maybe Hitler wasn't so bad. Maybe the Nazis aren't bad. Why everybody say Nazis are evil? Guys, I predicted he would do that. That's what's so trippy. I can't believe he's out there actually doing it. So the letter I wrote, maybe I should just put it on the screen. That way you guys know that it exists. So hang on. And I can't get it to. I'll just read it, guys. So hang on. So this is something that I wrote a couple of years ago. And again, what trips me out is I was doing it in Atlanta while I was stranded in Atlanta in a hotel. And as it turns out, you guys, that's where they were holding Roman Seleznev. They were holding him in a prison in Atlanta. And I didn't even know that. So what I'm telling you guys is it's not just that I wrote this letter to the Russian embassy. The reason why you must know that whatever I've done got significant amount of attention and traction globally, not just in America. Like, my information has been seen by a global audience. I got Russia's attention 2 years ago to look into my material more deeply because I wanted them to know that what's going on with the poking them is not coming from the vast majority of Americans. We do not believe what this very small group of people believe. These people lie to us and they lie to Russia. And I wanted them to know that. Okay. So this is the letter I wrote. Dear sirs and madams, I'm writing to you because I have information that I believe to be of great importance to the security of both America and Russia. This information is being suppressed within the United States by corrupted defense and energy contractors and a complicit media. I I feel the need to reach out to Russia. Sorry. I feel the need to reach out to Russia in friendship to protect both your and America's interests and to ensure peace between our nations. I believe, hang on, I need to like increase this text because I'm having a hard time reading it. All right. I believe I can help both Russia and America understand the very complex relationships involving media influence relative to government corruption and how they tie together. You're likely familiar with the case involving the prosecution of Russian citizen Roman Seleznev. It's my understanding that in response to their handling of the case, Russia blacklisted four Department of Justice officials. One of the blacklisted DOJ officials is Kathryn a now retired cybercrime division attorney. She is my aunt, who was married into my family through my uncle Ricardo Cruz. She uses her maiden name Warma instead of Cruz, which is why this might not be obvious to those outside the United States. I have concerns about my family's history and believe that they are not being honest with the American population about many of their dealings within government roles. This extends beyond my Aunt Kathryn Warma, which I will explain in more detail. I'll give you a brief history of me and my family's background. My full name is Justin Gabriel Cruz, and I was born in Seattle, Washington. My family has historically settled in the Seattle area, Portland, Bend, Oregon, and different parts of California state. Many of them held significant government positions or worked for contract agencies with interests in the Department of Energy, nuclear industry, and also have intelligence connections. Some have worked places like the Department of Refugee Services, Department of Justice, and Department of Forestry, amongst others. Kathryn Warma's husband, my uncle Ricardo Cruz, was appointed to a high-ranking administrative function with Seattle School District through Gary Locke, while Locke was governor of Washington State. Locke later went on to become a two-time Obama administration appointee, Secretary of Commerce and Ambassador to China. My father, Rodolfo Rudy Cruz, hang on, guys, I got to do some window adjustments here. Okay. My father, Rodolfo Rudy Cruz, held positions for various Department of Energy facilities like Hanford Nuclear Reservation, Rocky Flats Plant, and Yucca Mountain Repository in Nevada. He held these positions in my youth, which resulted in our family moving from state to state. We lived in Washington, D.C. briefly while he served in a fellowship for Democratic Senator Warren Magnuson, if that helps to give you a clear picture of my family's political relationships. My brother, Joaquin Joe Cruz, like my father, has also worked for and as a contractor with the Hanford Nuclear Reservation Department of Energy. In addition, he held positions with BWXT, a nuclear contractor, and Science Applications International Corporation, known as SEIC, which spun off to Leidos, just to name a couple. Guys, I wrote this 2 years ago when he was still at the NSD. He's no longer there. He's currently working at Pacific Northwest National Laboratory and the National Security Directorate affiliated with Hanford. It is this relationship between Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, Science Applications International Corporation, Leidos, my family, and government corruption that I'll explain in more detail shortly. I personally never held a government position, and I am under no legal obligations or contracts within the U.S. government to conceal what I know. I spent most of my life in the wireless telecommunications industry, working for or contracting on projects for companies like Verizon, Sprint, and US Cellular. I spent many years working with vendors like Ericsson, Samsung Telecommunications, Nortel, who was acquired by Ericsson, and Alcatel-Lucent, acquired by Nokia, who provide wireless telecommunications infrastructure, hardware, and support. I held positions involving long-term planning of wireless networks, design and optimization of towers, and their database parameters. Much of this time was spent provisioning interconnects for emergency 911 connectivity between communications companies and emergency services law enforcement. It's through this telecommunications experience that I realized we have exploits in the United States that effectively hack tip lines relative to human trafficking. Currently, the FBI trusts this very serious responsibility to a nonprofit agency named Polaris through a line connected to 888-3737-888. I tried to inform the FBI what I learned, and to date, they will not have a conversation with me to allow me to help. It appears they are complicit and will not work with me to fix it. I started investigating my mother's family in 2016. Her father, James Pettigrew, was a serial child abuser, and this is an acknowledged fact within my family, but was not broadly known by the public. His crimes were concealed, and there was no media coverage. I began researching him and his wife, Martha Kathryn Hatfield Pettigrew, and found data correlations to a global human trafficking network referred to as the Finders Cult, a group that was revealed by the retired FBI agent and whistleblower Ted Gunderson. In the United States, these networks are very cleverly concealed. When the true story is released, even by the FBI and DOJ, there are always data corruptions and manipulations to ensure it is difficult for investigators to decipher, meaning it's only half or partly true. The media simply repeats the realistic fiction, and the child abuse trafficking network is never caught and or held accountable. When I researched the finders, I learned the official reports were disseminating details in a coded, ciphered method, but not actually telling the whole truth. This, I believe, was done to protect the guilty and confuse investigators, media, and population. It's difficult to explain in detail without writing an entire book, but I wanted to give you a quick summary of what caused me to investigate my family further. Understand this one point clearly, though. In my youth, I personally witnessed James Pettigrew abusing a child. I received testimony from a child he abused. He confessed to me personally about many other children he abused, not just in the US, but also in Korea. This is a fact. He was allowed to go free by my family and settled in Mexico. I never understood how or why this could happen. Recently, I discovered this because my family is involved with human trafficking, child abuse networks that operate very similar to what is reported in the Finder story. My family will not work with me to uncover the truth, and it's clear to me now my life is at risk. I tracked the Hatfields and Pettigrew's families to the Tule Lake Segregation Center in California, which housed nearly 1,000 German-Italian Nazi prisoners of war in 1945. My mother, Penny Diane Pettigrew Crew, was raised by James and Martha Pettigrew in the Tule Lake, California area near the POW Center. Her mother and grandmother are buried in the IOOF, Independent Order of Oddfellows Cemetery in Merrill, Oregon, just north of the Nazi relocation facility. It has become clear to me that she and her family are Nazi collaborators, potentially, and this is part of the hidden true story of the Finders Cult. Kidnapping is a system of eugenics and human energetic manipulation as a means to control larger groups in the population. They partnered with certain members of the other side of the family. The combined data of these two families are concealed within the official Finders report. It's become clear to me that many of the family are modern Nazis or Nazi sympathizers who conceal their identities and pretend to be Mexican American, Jewish who escaped Nazis, or simple rural farmers. Many of them, not all of them, mind you, are cruel, manipulative, and politically connected and have infiltrated American politics, justice, energy, and media infrastructure in very sophisticated ways I can't easily fit into this email. This became painfully evident to me when I approached the FBI to report my concerns about this, my family, cult activity, and a Polaris human trafficking hotline hack. One office told me to go to Starbucks coffee shop and upload it to their ic3.gov website from a public Wi-Fi, even though I had the data ready to hand them. I then approached another office in Nevada who ignored my reports entirely. I even created 10 publicly available reports for the public and the FBI, which were posted to YouTube from the FBI's backlot to ensure they could not say they don't know. To explain the depth of why this is happening would require that I meet with you if that is possible to explain in detail. I have many materials to prove that I'm communicating to you and hoping you can provide a means through which to explain it. You might be familiar with the Science Applications International Corporation, who I mentioned earlier. My brother worked at SAIC from 1993 to 1999 before starting his career with the DOE, Department of Energy, and their affiliated contractors. They have a horrendous track record in the United States for causing problems within our military and federal intelligence gathering infrastructure. They're also the last lab to be involved with energetics and psychic research via the Stargate project, which was officially discontinued in 1995. They were connected to many failed intelligence operations or computer systems. They were part of a team who misinformed about chemical weapons to get the United States into war with Iraq. They were connected to the FBI's virtual case file system, which failed to work and created many internal intelligence gathering problems. In addition, they were tied to the NSA's Trailblazer project, which created controversy because it failed and was chosen over a less expensive thin thread variation. They have spun off to Leidos and recently acquired Dynetics. This is particularly troubling to me because Science Applications International Corporation, Dynetics, and Leidos all have involvement in projects like the International Space Station and the Antarctic mission. And they're all connected, guys. Dynetics, Leidos, and SEIC are effectively the same company. And Dynetics is the space division, okay? Sorry, I'll get back to the letter here. Projects like ISS and Antarctica require a high level of integrity to protect the interests of America and our international partners like Russia. There is also a connection to Bigelow Aerospace, who was recently responsible for a failed air module at the International Space Station, but that would require a more lengthy discussion. I'm deeply concerned that the Nazi elements I've discovered are heavily embedded in these projects. In my experience, these are not good people. They don't love the US and have significant, they don't love America and would like to see us in a war with Russia if they can do that. Many of the Nazis in the US have significant cover and influence to affect our collective perceptions. They hold a grudge with Russia since World War II and were often connected to fueling the Cold War between our nations. They'd like to see that Cold War revived. Sabotage and disinformation is part of their methods. I don't want to see my country blamed for the sins of a small number of infiltrators who have more influence than I do with intelligence and defense agencies. I can explain this in great detail if you can provide me a secure venue through which to do it. My current environment is not safe. Anyways, guys, I'm not going to get into that part because that was more historically about that time. But you basically have the crux of the entire letter there that I wrote the Russian embassy. It was a whole detail of everything involving the history of the family. And I know that may seem like a little bit of an extreme thing to do, but let me explain to you my logic here, folks. Like, I don't have a part two from what I used to do career wise without going into something like energetics. I mean, that's really the only thing that I can do that's ethical um, in order for me to continue like tapping into the knowledge that I developed through my career as a radio frequency engineer and doing something that I actually believe in and actually doing something that I think is positive, not just for America, but for the entire world. I think that a focus on energetics and what it actually is and does, and spreading that knowledge and that awareness, it's the bridge between the spiritual and the scientific. It's something that I think that nearly anybody can get behind once they understand it. And the thing I observed repeatedly in nearly every defense intelligence report or Army report or CIA, DIA report, all of them, is dating back to the Cold War, they were scared to death of what the Russians knew about energetics. They were very concerned about Russia and China specifically gaining all of the knowledge on this and America being left, behind. And the best thing I can tell you is that the mistake that America has made is keeping the general population, the most of us, ignorant when what you should have done was made sure that this was actually a part of our public education. Energetics should have been integrated into biology, into science programs, and all public education. All kids should have a full understanding of the energetic map of the human energy field before they even leave public school. Isn't it weird though? They're so focused on teaching them all kinds of things that shouldn't have anything to do with public school. Things that involve human sexuality that are really the jobs of the family and the parents based on the ethos and the values of the family and what they want to teach their children. But no, this is something that actually is pretty universal that should be taught as science, and it's denied in Western culture. But you go to India, they know it. They know about the energy structure of man and woman. They know what we are. Go to nearly any Eastern culture, and they have a concept of human energy. They have a name for it: chi, prana, ki. Here they call it Lush in some circles. It's all the same thing. Wilhelm Reich called it orgone. What do you want to name it? So, how are we going to fix it, folks? What I try to do, see, like that very letter, it'll manifest something into physical reality. I just sent out a frequency. That frequency was heard, it was tuned. The information data sets are now amplified. They already have been. See, the thing that folks in my family need to know is the Russians have known what I told you, everybody here. They've known that for over 2 years. The jig is up. Khazarian mafia, like, they kind of know where shit comes from now. All right, Russia and China and Brazil and India, right? Brazil, Russia, India, China. Who's the S again? Who was the S in BRICS? Is that South Korea? Somebody. No, I thought it was somebody that's not quite that pro-West. Who's the S in that? Anyways, yeah, the Khazars, sure. But again, guys, like knowing what exactly all that amounts to. See, there's people, there's the mask worn by the mask, worn by the mask, worn by the mask, the man behind the man, behind the man, behind the man, right? And getting to who that is has been the game. And how do you do it if you're in Russia? How do you know who's doing what? Well, my guess is that Russia probably had a better idea of what was going on in America than most Americans do. You guys even know that like the bombers that they allege to have Russian identities, you know, like to be from Russia or whatever from that region. Remember the Boston bombing? I can show it to you again, guys. I've done it before in live streams. Look it up. The fact is, Russia warned the FBI in advance. Did y'all know that? That's probably a false flag, anyways. But the point was, is the Russians knew it was going to happen and they warned. And the FBI was like, "What? Whatever, whatever." Well, guys, how's the FBI saying whatever working out for you? Are we going to tolerate it still, or have they lost their authority? They've been doing it too long, guys. So at some point, you got to flick the switch, and the military's got to step in and say, okay, military police are taking over central roles at the FBI. Sorry, you fucked up. You're not actually enforcing federal law. And that's kind of needed in this country right now. And it's all fucked because of you, FBI. You're a big part of it. But see, to understand there's an ecosystem behind what makes that all work. Why do you think Russia blacklisted my aunt? See, like my aunt, she retired from the DOJ the same time as two other people named Blackstone and Westinghouse. Are they presenting us with reality? Did my aunt truly work with two people that were born with the names Westinghouse and Blackstone? Blackstone being like what? $1 trillion hedge fund? BlackRock, Blackstone own all the real estate, all the stocks and bonds. That's how buffer characters work. They take on a last name that represents something and they place them into a position that has influence where they look like they're mid-level, but they're doing the jobs of people very high level. And then they have buffer characters that are created that don't really exist, yet they do. Well, you keep saying, I mean, Vanguard, fine, but whatever, guys. It's, you know, it's the same shit. It all is going to lead back to the same people owning it all. So, all guys, what we're dealing with right now is there's an amount of people that are like this big compared to the rest of the world, like this much. And here in America, they talk and trick a whole bunch of people in America into be like using us as human shields. And if you ask me, that's what Paul Whelan's about. That's getting a whole bunch of good patriotic Americans to go like, oh, fine. Yeah, you're going to let some stoner, you know, women's NBA basketball player out, trade her, but you're not going to bring back a U.S. Marine. Fine. Guys, I don't give a shit about Britney Granier. I think that was a big setup. She knew better. Are you shitting me? You're going to go and bring freaking cannabis oil to Russia? Are you stupid? It's illegal there. You ain't in America. Don't go anywhere. I mean, you shouldn't even be traveling state to state with half that shit. She didn't know that? I don't think she's that lacking in sophistication. Please. It's bait. So whatever they're doing this for, Russia's figured it out. Yeah, guys, you know, if the West wants to survive, guys, America wants to survive, you got to abandon like Like everybody here has to like just sort of like, at the very highest levels have to begin openly abandoning, organizations like WEF, all this nonsense, CFR, all this shit. You got to get out of it. These bullshit think tanks. No. They're not thinking up anything that's making it work for all of us. So guys, I had to like, so for me, like I really would like to have, I would personally like to have a better relationship. Me personally. Like I'm trying to do things career wise and with my future research that is in greater harmony with things that are consistent with what Russian researchers are doing, which is studying the biofield and what it manifests in the physical reality in a way that's far more scientific and fact based. They're using equipment, they're creating equipment to measure the biofield with, they're fine tuning previous methods involving Kirlian photography, which is why I'm using a device that was designed by Russians. And often as I can find things designed by Russians when it comes to frequency things, I try to. I even have some frequency meters involving nuclear radiation and electromagnetic pulse that I measure using Russian meters because they actually design them with integrity. They want them to actually work. Do you know what Americans do? They attenuate certain frequencies. They filter frequencies that make them unmeasurable to where the person who buys something can't even measure something that they're looking for by design. It's caked into it. So like if they're doing a bunch of shit to you using frequencies below 30 megahertz, they'll do two things. They'll make sure that no products are available in America. If somebody designs a spectrum analyzer that sweeps below 30 megahertz, it'll be taken off the market and it'll be like, they'll all get bought up. I have a meter like this. It's called a zap checker. It goes sweeps all the way down to 1 megahertz, I think, or maybe 10 or under 10. It's a great meter though, and they're cheap and they're analog, but that you can't get ones that do what this does anymore because all the meter makers now they don't sweep that low because most of the shenanigans are happening underneath the 30 megahertz range. The hacks, the things that are happening with, body frequency manipulation and EWs, a lot of that is under 30 megahertz. That's what I've learned. And so it makes it a challenge even for me, guys. Like I try to find, software defined radios and different software platforms, but see, I'm not a programmer or a coder. So I don't know when somebody who's like created the software is even going out of the way to filter out certain frequencies to make it to where you can't find them. Yeah. Things that are extremely low frequency, ultra low frequency. Yeah, you got it. I mean, things that affect brainwave. Because guys, you can modulate one signal and turn it into another signal, by aiming it at somebody. I don't want to get deep into that topic, guys, but the point is though, is that, when you're trying to do verification layers and things like that, we have a problem in America that there's people that are doing so many shady things to Americans within America that are Nazis that do not care about America that we all trust. We trust them with our information. We trust them with the equipment that we buy. We trust them with verification layers of all. We trust them with satellite communications. We trust them with media. And at some point, we have to do a big sweep of these people and go like, "No, you're canceled, man. You're all fucking done. We know what you're all doing. You're all in cahoots, and you're doing something way bigger with structural psychology." And so like Russia had like a wave of this, and Western media reported it like they were banning journalists. They were an oppressive country that was locking up innocent journalists. It's like, no, guys, we have mockingbird journalists here in America that fake news and just use their reports as ways to pass code involving numbers of humans they're selling, drugs they're selling, guns they're selling. Mockingbird journalists do deals using fake news stories. It's like an email going back and forth. Received the package, sent the package, but it's not said that way. It's part of the news story. Certain reporters, like on MSNBC, like half of their show is dedicated to actually passing codes that communicate trafficking deals from one region to the next. That show specifically covers the rat line. And the people that are at the high level know that. And the rest of us are all going like, "Oh, I really like what this news commentator is saying." Well, they're saying a lot of bullshit. So I wasn't sure if I was going to show you guys the things on biofields or not. I feel like it's kind of important, but um, because I was kind of showing you the thing there on Professor Emoto and like programming water, right? And so the reason why I was doing that, I know well, no, they shouldn't seem not linked. And by now, I hope it's obvious how linked these things are: programming water, intention, the repetition of a story, the repetition of a word, the repetition of a frequency when you really get down to it. Programs water. The body is 60-70% water, somewhere in that range. And so that means that the human body is comprised of 60 to 70% programmable matter. And that all thoughts, that every thought that surrounds that person, as well as comes from the person, is changing in real time the programmable structure of the water cells. So surround yourself with better messaging, surround yourself with kinder people, surround yourself with better messaging, because it's vital to your survival. And if that requires isolation, then I guess that's what it requires. Sometimes people have to do that. I did for a while. I had to just be by myself for a while, and I did that. Um, well, I haven't muted anything, so it should still be going. So somebody says they're not getting audio, but I'm still broadcasting. I'm not showing anything being muted. So, but I guess the larger point would be like, once you figured out what's going on at this level, then what's the next steps? And all I'm trying to let this audience know is that I made those steps, and that I understand that like sometimes it doesn't happen like overnight. Like, I'm used to things taking a long time based on the work that I used to do. I used to plan projects that would take a year or two to come into fruition. I had a job I did for several years, and it was a planning role. It was involving designing cell towers. So from the minute you thought of it, the inception of the thought, I want a cell tower, or we all think that a cell tower should go this place. If it's a collective, an individual, it doesn't matter. The moment that the thought comes into inception before it actually manifests into physical reality, again, we call it constructing a tower, but it began spiritually as an idea, and it manifested and vibrated into physical reality. Fact, fact, fact. Anybody who's been involved with construction or planning knows this by now. Like, I shouldn't even, like, for those of you who get the plasma aspect of what I say, just translate that to a project meeting. Translate that to when you agree to build a building or a tower or some structure or something, anything. Hell, IKEA furniture is manifesting or vibrating something into physical reality. The instructions have a frequency that tunes into something that you interpret as a message. This joint goes into this, and they link together like that. I know I have to put glue on this and place it into this post and put it onto here. Because when you visualize the print frequency, you see, you begin to vibrate the item into physical resonance, to where the image that's on the front of that IKEA manual becomes that object. It starts off as a whole bunch of individual pieces. And before those individual pieces were that, somebody else was handed something that first became an idea, was transcribed into a physical direction. And then the person visualized the physical direction, then manifested something else into physical reality. And this is all magic. It's all magic. It is. All of it. You have to see it that way so that you'll understand why dark magic is a thing, light magic is a thing, sex magic is a thing, and they work. They do things, they manifest things. and you should understand it. It benefits people to be smarter about these things at this point. It's the dumbing down of our culture is why we're in the place that we're in today. Because if more people knew the game, they would structure better things into physical reality, or they would make more an effort to balance energy. What I did earlier with that document, that's not just a document that I read you. I want you to visualize what it actually has as its intention. My intention from that document is to bring balance. I see an imbalance. I see lies and deception, and that I have a place in history through which I can actually remove some of the deception, which creates greater balance and achieves greater peace between two countries that desperately need it. And I care deeply about America. But see, I care about Russia. I care about the Russian people. I care that they gave me a lot of information that enlightened me and made me a better, more well rounded person. I would not be who I am today without Russian researchers. I wouldn't understand half the things that I do without their teachings. So I refuse to dismiss their culture. I refuse to be dismissive and respective of their country. I've learned too much from them, things that my own country kept from me. And it's not because the US did that. It's not because America did that. It's because America was dumb enough and maybe too willfully allowed themselves to be deceived by Nazis. But it's over. The Nazi reign in America is over. And you're going to have to realize, America, that as it unwinds, it's going to look really weird. And you can't be knee jerk. You can't just post on Twitter like, yeah, release Paul Whelan. That's stupid, you guys. If that's your position, that's okay. But know who he is and know what he's actually done. That's all I'm asking you. Then, if you still want to take the same position, go ahead. But please educate yourself on it, because see, these countries, like, guys, do you understand how, like, we can't be just running around reposting every freaking thing that's anti-Russia, especially. Please be more sophisticated. They don't deserve it. That's half the problem, guys. I'm not some pro-Russia shill or working for Putin. I'm not a person who was ever like this huge fan of like governments or anything else like that. It's about the people. It's just like China, guys. I can separate, you know, the governance, a communist agenda from Chinese governance from Chinese people. I see them pushing back big time over there. See, that's the fire. That's the actual, those are the Chinese people. They're just like you. Not exactly, but you see what I'm saying? Once you push them to the brink, they're just like a kettle on the heat. Once they've had enough, they push back and they say, no, government, you can't do this. America's like that too. But see, look at us. We got lulled. If anything, guys, you should. I mean, I'm not saying we should be like pushing all this shit down and everything in the streets, but where's your outrage at some of the, at what's going on in this country when it comes to just being lied to every single day, constantly lied to? Why don't we demand more? Why don't we make that happen? Why don't we just, I mean, guys, if anything, we should be constantly like demanding that CNN just be like shut down as a business. They're not going to reform. How can something that claim, I mean, wasn't there some like guarantees that a group that put themselves out there as offering the news had to have, because they share government equipment, like satellites, guys. You rely on government satellites. The government's always involved with keeping that thing up in the air no matter what. The regulatory things and everything involving that. So how are they allowed to lie to us and get us to repeat their lies? So, okay, it's one thing when we're lied to, ladies and gentlemen, but the thing that, and I say this about myself, all of us, whoever we are, we have to individually be far more sophisticated in how we analyze information. And I'm just putting that out there now, especially because I just have this strong sense, guys, that this story, this whole thing with Griner, and it's going to wind up, guys, dropping a whole bunch of these international news stories, like right in the middle of this particular channel. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but I don't think so. I've been getting hints from the sidelines for a long time that there was going to be something that just changed everything. There was going to be a time in history where something involving my data was going to intersect with something pretty major, and that would be the breaking point. And then everybody would actually know what this is, you know. So part of it has just been preparing me for if or when that happens, because it's not like anybody knows for a fact, but they had a pretty strong confidence based on timeline things. So it makes sense to me now too, because now I can kind of see how it lines up. I can actually see the data synchronizing in the aether a little bit. You start to be able to visualize things in the biofield after a while, guys. That's part of, I think, being intuitive, or having that gift of being able to see things before they happen. Sometimes it's just you develop a gift for seeing how thoughts and ideas are lining up in the aether, and it's just as a sort of like surreal way of, like, I don't know, like the same way some people can visualize auras and some certain types of frequencies involving light come into resonance easier for some people than others. Like some people see all the different hues of every color around a person's biofield, and other people, they don't see it at all. They don't see any of those things. They don't even know what the hell you're talking about. But I do know there's people that see auras and they see biofields and they're real people. And not all of them are fake new age people. A lot of them are, but not all. And those people that I know are not faking it, like what I'm trying to do is be for those types of people a verification layer that just gives them a sense of satisfaction on something. This partly, not entirely. I mean, this is part of my goals, but I want those people to actually be verified and validated in ways that helps them understand what they're actually doing. I want them to understand their gift. I want them to understand their ability the same way I've been trying to like figure out what I've got going on. I don't really understand all the different terms, or because the reason why we have to be like frontiers and pioneers in this is because the people that have already done it, yeah, they know it and they are the pioneers, but they're never going to tell us. They're never just going to give up this information. They're always going to try to keep us out and keep us away from the core group that is involved with, like, the ones that actually get to talk about these things and have a seat at the table and be a meaningful part of the conversation. They keep us out. And the fact is, it does sort of like, in order for us to make meaningful change, we do have to have that collaborative environment. People do need to have environments where they can actually just sort of like be where they're not stressed with other things, and they can actually negotiate things and discuss things and work through problems at a deeper level, like a real think tank. Because, guys, think tanks are powerful for a reason. I mean, all these things like WF, I mean, like, yeah, there's something that's manifesting reality because these are very powerful people and they have a lot of occult work and a lot of occult influence behind them. Generation after generation of binded influence connected to their family names and their images and their DNA. And then they bring them all together in the same place at the same time annually and get them to think up the same effed up shit. And then that manifests into physical reality. They go around making policy changes. They just say things. You're all going to eat bugs by the time it's 2030. Here's the new diet for the year 2030: crickets and grasshoppers. No more meat, no more vegetables. And then they're shutting down 3,000 farms. You guys, we're not going to have any food. You better get used to eating bugs. Hey, let's shut down 3,000 farms. That's the Netherlands. Shutting down 3,000 farms. Of course, Dutch farmers are all saying, fuck you. They're not taking that. Way to go. I love plucky farmers, man. I mean, I come from farming, so it's like, I've had farm for 5 years. I was the chief irrigator on our family farm, did alfalfa cubing, all of it. So I know hard work, I know harvest, culture, I know, all of it. And it's farmers aren't people you mess with. and they're showing actually that they're a force to be reckoned with, and so they have my full support. I hope that they push back on that as much as possible. I mean, things like that, folks, are absolutely anti-life. Telling 3,000 farmers to shut down. Like, hey, well, no, guys, we're trying to reduce these types of emissions, so we have to just stop making food. I mean, growing things improves, right? Things involving ozone. I mean, does it not? Doesn't like growing things, actually crops and trees and things like that, improve? All of these factors are entering in more things into the ionosphere via the plant and the. I thought that's how it works. I thought it actually improves things, but they actually are saying that they're trying to reduce certain types of emissions by shutting down farms. Seems a little bit weird. Well, that's okay there. I'm not going to be on much longer unless you guys have something you want me to talk about. I basically covered the core topics here, guys. I just wanted to get into like deep into the whole, what's up with the whole Whelan Griner thing. What I think is going to happen next, guys, is they're going to try to make a play where they say, now we want to trade, you know, Whelan for Seleznev or something like that. They're going to try to like create some sort of false equivalency between these cases, guys. And I'm just letting you know, like, comparing a guy that steals like the identities of some spies from your country is a far cry from a guy that just like was trying to like become a millionaire by stealing credit card numbers. It's a big difference. Banks make print money out of thin air and just throw it out there and say like, you have this money now. And then whenever something like this happens, and I don't like when it happens, mind you, but the mistake gets erased, like, or the crime gets erased because whatever that guy did to the customer is insured. But see, once those Russian identities went out, I mean, the damage was done to that country and the identities of those assets that they had. So like the people as assets. So it's like the fact that US gave this guy twice as much of a sentence as they gave a person that was alleged to have spied on. I mean, guys, it's like, and the data is not as them going like, I just went here for a wedding. No, dude, you went there to a wedding with tens of thousands of dollars. You barely showed up to the wedding. You were meeting with the guy that had connections to getting the identities of Russian spies. You hold 4 passports, and you were discharged from the Marines after you lied, cheat, and steal, including like cheating to the tune of like stealing $10,000 while enlisted. Guys, like this type of misinformation going back and forth, it doesn't work, man. So that's why I wanted to do this. It's like basically to say like the people that are creating those narratives are not America. They're not pro-Republican. They're not pro. Well, I mean, look, they're obviously closer to the DNC. But what I'm saying, guys, is like none of these folks are doing anything that's advancing America. They're really trying to. It's in their interest because they never have to deal with the consequences. They're trying to get us into a conflict with Russia that we do not belong in. It is not our conflict. It is the conflict of the small number of Nazis that are influencing people in America to go in that direction. So anytime they're pushing you into those anti-Russian narratives, I beg you, please, guys, it's not just them, anybody, but especially with the Russia ones, really dig deeper now and start finding out like, where's the spin? You're always going to find the spin. And I hope this helped you find it. So anyways, guys, thank you very much for joining here. I'll be on more regularly, probably for a while here. So you'll probably see me doing nightly ones or pretty close to nightly ones or whatever for a while. So thank you and have a good night.